Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the Dirty Pat Walsh channel on YouTube with me, your host, Dirty Pat Walsh. I think we're gonna dip. Hillary sent me a can of this because I really actually do like it. Skull Berry Blend. Yeah, I do like this stuff. It's one of my favorite Skull fruity blend, fruity dips. I like them all about the same, but this one, the reason I like this one is because it has elevated nicotine level. This is actually one of the stronger nicotine skulls you can get. I read that somewhere important on the internet, so it can't be lying, right? I don't know, it's always worked for me. Don't want to take up too much time, though. Here, we got to give this the dirty pack. Alright, see, check it out. Yes, hello. Cheers, everybody. I want to get my nicotine in me because I gotta go rehearse for a few hours today. I can't be dipping because I'm playing harp. And it can't be spitting anywhere because we're outside. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm rehearsing for this show called The Pratfall Effect. That's going on next Wednesday with my friend Wes. And it's going to be an intense show. It's all about addiction and sex work and just general things that all actually happen on my street. it's all based on Bethune Street, basically, and it's being performed in front of the ruins of a Baskin-Robbins factory that used to make ice cream for the soldiers in Iraq, which is kind of weird. And it's being torn down, but they've had a stop work order on it, so it's just this really weird, kind of beautiful ruins of a factory right now. That's where we're performing it, out in front of that. So, doing that today. But I told Angry Buddha Man, I was having a little chat in the comments section with him today. We were talking about punk rock, and he's a lot younger than me, and I was born in 1970. I lived through punk rock when punk rock was a new thing. I was on the younger end of it. It was all the kids who were a few years older than me that were really like having the bands and doing the stuff. But I was definitely on the scene. I had a shitty little band. We never played anywhere, but I talked about that in yesterday's video. But yeah, back in the 80's, because the Buddha Man said something like he couldn't imagine what it was like back in the day, and from a musical perspective, it was phenomenal. Especially now, looking back on the music, like the punk rock music of the day, how much it's influenced modern music. How valuable the recordings are. I think about like 7 inches I used to have, and we'd wing at the wall when we were drunk, that were worth hundreds of dollars now, stuff like that. But yeah, being a punk rocker in the 80's, it was dangerous, you know. I lived in, kind of in a suburb of Toronto called Oakville, and even in suburban Oakville, you know, Toronto had a ferocious punk rock scene. I used to spend all my weekends going to Toronto and going to shows or going to protests or doing something fucking punk rock, you know, going to the Punks Picnic in Trinity Bellwoods Park and stuff like that. But back at home, it was dangerous to walk around because, you know, back in the 80's, being, you know, it was the 80's. Everybody was fucking crazy and dressing crazy and, you know, punk rock kind of had a look. Like now it's kind of like turned into this weird uniform of like a mohawk and a leather jacket and boots and tight black jeans, you know, at least to my experience. But back, you know, back when I was younger, like punk rock wasn't really about that. It was about looking like it was about individualizing yourself, you know. The way I looked, I had like I bleached my hair, this half of it with peroxide, so I had orange hair here and brown hair here, and I didn't really do much to it. I just didn't wash it much, and I kept it about that long, and you know I'd spike it up with gel sometimes or just leave it, you know, and I looked like a punker, you know. I had like, you know, this is like Chuck Taylors were very punk rock at the time. You wouldn't see anybody but the punkers wearing Chuck Taylors, or combat boots, or you know, torn jeans, or you know, a ripped shirt, or buttons, or you know, little pins on your jacket. Like people didn't do that. Anybody other than the punk rockers. So you know, and we were just known as freaks for the most part by the general public. Everybody was in a clique. Like that was the thing about the 80's, is whether you liked it or not, you know, like gangs were huge in the 80's. Like when you look at like LA and stuff like that, all the Crips and Bloods and stuff, that was huge in the 80's. But even in suburban Oakville, you know, you were basically by the music you listened to, you were put into a clique, and you know some of these cliques kind of worked as gangs, you know. You know, the metalheads were fucking outnumbered everybody. The metal was huge in the 80's. They outnumbered everybody, and they were the bullies. They were the ones who were always the instigators. Them and the jocks, like the sports guys, drive around with baseball bats and tire irons in their car, looking for, you know, they coming out of the east end of town, which is like the rich end of town, coming down in their parents' Beamers and stuff, looking for fucking trouble, you know. You know, I've whipped fucking bottles at cars, and these people fucking had to hide in bushes from people chasing with, you know, with a baseball bat, you know, like crazy. I saw a guy get a knife in his back once. You know, it was serious. Like it wasn't, you know, like if, you know, basically if I was like a punk rocker standing there at the bus stop smoking a cigarette and a couple metalheads came up, they'd flick the cigarette out of my mouth and I'd have to fight them, you know. No talking. Like that was basically how it went. So it was dangerous, but you know, you had to be true to it. And, you know, I was true to it. I don't know about the rest of my friends. I know some of my friends were, who I still talk to now, you know. But it was much more, being a punk rocker was much more than just listening to punk rock music. It was like saying fuck you to everybody. Everybody hated you, you know, like the cops were all against you. the jocks were against you, all the rich kids were against you, the metalheads were against you, and they were super violent. All kinds of shit, man, you know? So you were basically at war with everybody if you were a punker, you know? And, you know, a lot of people were kind of undercover punkers, you know, they dressed and behaved normally, but listened to the Dead Kennedys at home, you know? But those of us who stood by it and flew the flag, I've had time when I was living on my own in Oakville on Kerr Street. I've had times where I had to like sit and put my feet up against the door from my door, trying to get kicked down by a gang of punk rock haters, you know. Yeah, all kinds of shit like that. I'll tell more stories about being a punker in the 80s in the coming days. I'm getting notifications right now, and I got to end this video. But, yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in to the Dirty Pat Walsh channel. I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, like and subscribe. I'm hoping to hit 400 by Halloween. And be well, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.